Level 1. Fresh meat. You are sitting in a transport van with no windows, bouncing over the potholes of an interstate highway. The air inside smells of rusted metal, dried urine, and a distinct, suffocating scent of pure despair. Your wrists are shackled, connected to a heavy chain that bites into your waist. Every time the van hits a bump, the dull clanking of iron serves as the opening soundtrack to your loss of freedom. The kid sitting next to you, a fresh street banger no older than 20, is staring at the floor, quietly weeping. You don't cry. You swore to yourself you wouldn't shed a single tear in here. In this place, tears aren't a sign of sadness. They are blood in the water for the predators. Processing takes what feels like a lifetime. For 6 hours, you are treated like a slab of meat on an assembly line. Strip, face the wall, squat, and cough. The guards shine their heavy flashlights into your most private areas. The last shred of your civilian dignity is stripped away. They take your clothes, your watch, your worn wedding band, and the faded photo of your daughter you've carried in your wallet for 3 years. In exchange, they hand you a sequence of numbers. 3412. You no longer have a name. You are just a barcode. You put on an ill-fitting, faded blue uniform, slide your feet into cheap state-issued shower shoes, and grab a bedroll that smells like someone else's stale sweat. Walking down the endless main tier, hundreds of shirtless, heavily tattooed men stare at you through the bars. It's not hatred. It's cold, calculated evaluation. Do you have money? Who are your people? Are you an easy target? You realize quickly, everyone in this building belongs to a faction. The Aryan Brotherhood runs the yard on Tuesdays. The Mexican Mafia controls the kitchen duty. The Black Guerrilla family handles the laundry. If you come in unaffiliated, you are exposed. Being neutral is the most dangerous thing you can be. At lunch, you sit alone at a steel table, feeling 100 eyes piercing your spine. A man with a neck tattoo sits across from you. He doesn't introduce himself. He just stares dead into your eyes and asks, "Where are you from, and who do you run with?" Your answer determines if you live or die. Level 2, the prospect. You survived the first week. That means your answer didn't get you killed, and someone decided you have a sliver of value. Maybe your charges earned a twisted kind of respect, or maybe an old-timer you did a county bid with a decade ago vouched for you. He's solid, they said. You are now a prospect. You haven't been officially jumped in or blessed by the shot callers, but you are being watched. You have entered the probation period. They start giving you small, seemingly meaningless tests. During the morning head count, right as the CO, correctional officer, turns his head to sip his coffee, the old convict next to you shoves a tightly wrapped black electrical tape package into your palm. You are told to walk it through 2 metal detectors and hand it to a guy on cell block C. You don't open it. You don't ask if it's black tar, heroin, tobacco, or sharpened razor blade. You deliver it flawlessly. You don't ask questions. That is the correct answer. They tell you to pass a kite, a tiny note, to someone locked in protective custody. You bribe the trusty pushing the food cart with a pack of Newports to slide it under a tray. When the boss asks how you did it, you just smirk and stay quiet. That is also the correct answer. During this time, you are frantically learning the unique language of this concrete box. It's an unspoken language of the air. You learn to read shower shoes. If a pair is placed sideways across a cell door, it means a hit is happening inside. Don't look, don't enter. You learn to read eyes. Holding eye contact for more than a second and a half isn't a greeting. It's a challenge to fight. You learn to read the system. If the guard who usually complains about his wife is suddenly dead silent and won't look anyone in the eye, it means he's been paid off to look the other way while someone gets stabbed. You learn to read the temperature of a room the second you walk in. If you misread it, you leave in a body bag. Level 3, the soldier. You finally get patched in. Maybe it meant sitting in a cell while someone dug a crude, infected gang insignia into your back with guitar string and melted pen ink. Or maybe it meant walking into the blind spot of the showers and taking a brutal 3-on-1 beating for exactly 2 minutes without throwing a single punch back, spitting out blood and teeth. The pain is the point. It washes away your civilian weakness and brands you as property of the organization. You are now a foot soldier. You are the bottom of the gang's hierarchy, a disposable pawn. But the distinction is crucial. You are no longer the bottom of the prison's food chain. You have protection. You sleep in a crowded cell with men who share their overpriced commissary spread with you, men who call you brother. You will bleed for them, and they will bleed for you. Your job description is simple, but the execution is brutal. Follow orders without hesitation. You do not ask questions. You do not negotiate. When the contraband cell phones need to be moved, you move them. When a new, wealthy white-collar inmate needs to be extorted for rent, you're the one pressing the shiv against his ribs. When the leadership decide a message needs to be sent to a rival crew, you're the one hiding the sharpened piece of plexiglass in your waistband, waiting in the blind spot of the yard cameras. You take 100% of the risk, facing solitary confinement or fresh felony charges, while the boss is sitting comfortably in their cells reap 100% of the profit. It's the ultimate pyramid scheme of violence. But is it a bad deal? Not to you, because when you walk into the chow hall, the sea of orange jumpsuits parts for you. They don't fear you. They fear the monster standing behind you. Since the day you bled for that patch, you haven't felt loneliness. You've seen what isolation does to unaffiliated men in here, driving them to hang themselves from events. You will never let that be you. Level 4, the enforcer. You are 3 years into your sentence, and you have a name now. 6 months ago, there was an incident on the yard that inmates still whisper about after lights out. You never talk about the details. Real killers know that bragging only proves insecurity. Your silence allows the rumor mill to mutate, multiplying your ruthless reputation by a factor of 10. The higher-ups noticed. You are no longer a mindless grunt. You have been promoted to the role of enforcer. You realize quickly that a good enforcer isn't just a hyper-aggressive psychopath. Prison is full of rabid dogs who can't control their temper, and they usually end up dead or locked in the psych ward. A true enforcer is a surgeon. You understand deeply that violence is a high-cost tool. Uncontrolled, blind violence is a massive liability. It brings in a riot squad, triggers facility-wide lockdowns, attracts federal investigators, and completely halts the underground economy. Good business requires peace. Control violence, however, applied perfectly to the right target, at the exact right moment, applying just enough terror without alerting the administration. That is the bedrock of order, and you are that order. You start collecting debts. Sometimes you collect stamps and drugs, but often you collect favors or the promise of silence. When an inmate starts spending too much time chatting with the guards, you pull him aside in the steam of the morning showers. Most times, a blade isn't necessary. The dead, shark-like emptiness in your eyes is enough to make him sweat and swear to keep his mouth shut. If you do have to strike, you are the fastest, quietest one in the room. Lying on your steel bunk one night, listening to the industrial fans hum, you realize something terrifying. You broke a man's collarbone today, and you felt absolutely nothing. No adrenaline, no guilt. Searching for your humanity in a place like this only makes you soft. And soft means dead. Level 5, the shot caller. Anyone can hold a shank and stab a guy when told. But very few men can look at a chaotic, multi-faction dispute fueled by lies, bruised egos, and conflicting financial interests and make the exact right call. You have done this repeatedly. Your gamble's paid off. You are now the shot caller for your block. You manage your tier the way a regional director manages a corporate district. Your daily job is putting out fires. The men beneath you are constantly at each other's throats. Someone owes 2 cartons of cigarettes from a bad parlay on Sunday Night Football. Someone thinks another guy is messaging his baby mama on a smuggled cell phone. Someone stole another man's ramen noodles. In a pressure cooker like this, a stolen soup can ignite a race riot. You play the role of judge. You find compromises that allow both sides to save face and walk away without drawing blood. The harder part is negotiating with the shot callers of rival organizations. This is high-stakes diplomacy. If negotiations break down, 100 men will go to war on the yard. A war means a lockdown. A lockdown means a flow of drugs, phones, and cash stops completely. If your mismanagement costs the boss's money, your punishment will be worse than death. You manage the money flowing through the block, taking your cut. More importantly, you manage the dirty guards. You know which CO has a gambling addiction and brings in the Suboxone strips to pay his bookie. You sit on top of the money and the violence, but you are truly managing the most dangerous resource of all, information. You know who is secretly an informant and which rival boss is secretly a junkie. This knowledge is your ultimate power, but it's also your greatest vulnerability. The man who knows where all the bodies are buried is usually the next target. Level 6, the Connect. 4 years into a 12-year bid. In those 1,400 days, you have pulled off a miracle inside these walls. You have built a cross-faction syndicate. American prison politics are as rigid and unmoving as tectonic plates. The white supremacist gangs and the black cartels have decades of historical bad blood. They cross paths only to spill it, but you found the microscopic cracks in those plates. You realize a fundamental truth of the underworld. All racial ideology and street loyalty bends a knee to the almighty dollar. If the profit margins are fat enough, the most hardcore Aryan shot caller and the most militant black guerrilla captain will absolutely sit down at the same stainless steel table to talk business. The only thing they lack is a broker. A middleman who won't snitch, won't steal, and possesses the absolute trust of both sides. You became that man. You are the connect. Every scarce resource flows through your hands. The Suboxone smuggled to the mailroom, the wire transfers made to dummy Cash App accounts on the outside, the critical intel shared between rival gangs to keep the guards off their backs. All of it routes through your brain. Federal investigators have spent 3 years trying to map your network, and they can't even find the edge of the thread. But time is the one thing you cannot manipulate. You are 41 years old. The outside world is sprinting forward at a terrifying speed, while you're locked in a concrete time capsule. Your daughter is 16 now. She visits twice a year. When she sits on the other side of the plexiglass, holding the greasy phone receiver, the look in her eyes isn't hatred. Hatred you could handle. It is a profound, chilling alienation. She looks at you as if trying to figure out who the stranger in the blue uniform is. Every night, that look slices deeper than any shank ever could. Level 7, the underboss. One Tuesday morning, the man sitting on the throne above you falls. Power transitions in maximum security are never peaceful or bureaucratic. They are born from sudden violent vacuums. Maybe a federal sweep raided a cell and found a burner phone linking him to a street murder. Maybe the warden had him secretly transferred to a supermax facility in the dead of night. Or, worst of all, his most trusted lieutenant was flipped by the DA, wore a wire, and vanished into protective custody. The underground king who ruled the yard for 7 years simply ceases to exist. What follows is immediate, bloody chaos. The sharks smell blood. Rival factions test the waters, and ambitious captains within your own crew are the empty throne. Everyone is watching to see who has the weight to step into the void and hold it down. You step in, and you hold it down with an iron fist. The transition of power is not clean. For 2 weeks, the blind spots in the kitchen are painted with fresh blood. 3 men are airlifted to an outside hospital with accidental injuries. You swear to the grave you will never breathe a word about the orders you whispered during those 14 days. When the dust settles, you are the underboss. You are the de facto ruler of the prison's interior, answering only to the national syndicate bosses on the streets. Your communication with the outside world is a masterclass in espionage. You use coded language in letters heavily masked as legal mail. You pass messages through greenhorn public defenders who have no idea they are acting as mob couriers. During your 15-minute monitored phone calls, using highly specific neighborhood slang, you orchestrate hostile takeovers of drug corners in a city 300 miles away. You sit in an 8x10 concrete box, serving as the CEO of a multi-million-dollar criminal enterprise. Level 8, the boss. There is no coronation. Nobody hands you a crown or pins a medal to your chest. But one morning, when you step out of your cell for chow, you realize the atmosphere has permanently shifted. No one makes eye contact with you for more than a fraction of a second. Men press their backs against a wall to give you a 5-foot radius when you walk past. Even the most hardened, double homicide lifers nod their heads and call you boss. That unspoken, unanimous deference is your crown. You are now the highest authority in the facility. 8 years behind bars has forged you into a terrifying political machine. You understand the architecture of power better than any Ivy League MBA graduate. Corporate executives only risk bankruptcy when they fail. When you make a bad call, the price is paid in blood or the lives of your family on the outside. You manage a dozen captains, who in turn manage hundreds of soldiers. You also develop a sick, symbiotic relationship with the warden and the administration. It's never spoken out loud, but the reality is clear. 3,000 violent felons cannot be managed with pepper spray and batons alone. They need you to govern them. The lines are drawn. The guards turn a blind eye to certain contraband. In return, you guarantee there are no riots, no murders, and absolutely zero negative press for the warden. If a young hothead from the city tries to start a race war, your enforcers handle it quietly in the showers before the guards even have to blow their whistles. You become the supreme court of the prison. Even unaffiliated inmates come to you to mediate their disputes, knowing you are ruthless but fair. Your word is final. There's no appeals process. You occasionally wonder what you could have achieved if you had applied this genius to the legal world, but you push the thought away. Hope is poison in here. Level 9, the legend. Year 11. Through the transfer of inmates and the whispers of guards, your name has become a myth across the entire state penal system. You are a living legend. In the criminal underworld, the most terrifying trait isn't savage violence. It's longevity. In an environment specifically designed to crush a man's soul and sanity, you have maintained absolute, cold rationality for over a decade, expanding your empire every year. Young bangers arriving from the county jail already speak your name with reverence before they even step off the bus. But you know the truth. A legend is just a giant target painted on your back. Ambitious district attorneys want your name on a RICO indictment to launch their political careers. Young, rabid inmates stare at you, calculating the fame they'd earn if they drove a shank through your neck. You walk a razor-thin tightrope every single day. Yet, your most terrifying enemy is time itself. You are 40 years old. Your body is failing you. The arthritis in your knees screams on rainy days. The price of sleeping on a damp concrete slab for a decade. Your stomach is shredded by stress ulcers. While your conscious mind tries to forget the blood you spilled, your subconscious remembers every face. The ghost of the men you ordered hits on, and the brothers who died behind these walls. Stand at the foot of your bunk at 3 a.m. You sleep 4 hours a night. You spend the rest of the time reading. You consume more books on philosophy, economics, and law than most professors. Your grasp of criminal procedure is razor sharp. You personally drafted a complex motion for post-conviction relief that your expensive lawyers said was impossible. And you found a fatal procedural error from your original arrest. The court just granted you a parole hearing. The entire cell block cheers when the mail arrives. But sitting on your bunk, your palms are sweating. You are struck by a paralyzing terror. If you actually get out, do you even know how to survive in a world without iron bars? Level 10, the ghost. You were released 14 months ago. On that morning, wearing a cheap, ill-fitting civilian suit, you walked through the heavy steel doors. Standing on the curb, clutching a black trash bag containing your legal paperwork in old letters, you breathed in the scent of exhaust fumes and damp earth. You didn't feel joy. You didn't feel relief. You felt a violent, nauseating sense of weightlessness, as if you had been ejected into outer space. The world had sprinted forward without you. Everyone on the street is staring down at glowing screens. Ordering a coffee with Apple Pay feels like defusing a bomb. The 1,000 minor social interactions that civilians perform effortlessly leave your nerves shattered. You are out, but you are not free. You are a ghost, tethered to the system. You report to a parole officer twice a month. Piss tests are random. The geographic restrictions make navigating the city feel like walking through a minefield. Your felony record is a shadow you can't outrun. Every time you apply for a minimum wage job or a cheap apartment, you watch the warmth drain from the manager's eyes the second the background check clears. We'll keep your resume on file. They never call. Your old empire is still thriving in the dark. The guys from the neighborhood found you. They treat you with absolute reverence, calling you boss. They place a duffel bag with $100,000 in cash on your rickety table, begging you to take over a highly lucrative sports betting ring. You stare at the money. Then you shake your head and push the bag back, because you are attempting the hardest challenge of your life, something your decade as an underground emperor never prepared you for. You are trying to be a nobody. Your daughter is 20 now, away at college. She never visits your cramped halfway house. Once every few months, she texts, "Hope you're doing okay." You stare at the screen for an hour, your scarred hands trembling as you type a reply. It is the most delicate, terrifying negotiation of your life, praying she doesn't block your number. You work the graveyard shift at an Amazon fulfillment center, loading heavy pallets. When the sun comes up, your bones ache, but it is a clean exhaustion. You earn honest money. You aren't used to it, but you find peace in the quiet fatigue. Right at this exact moment, in a downtown courthouse, a judge slams a heavy wooden gavel. A young man with a fade and a streetwear hoodie sits at the defense table, staring blankly as the words 15 years echo in the room. In a few hours, he will be loaded into a windowless van, chained at the waist. He will walk down the endless corridor, surrounded by the predatory stares of 100 desperate men. He has no idea what kind of monster he will have to become to survive. He has no idea what will cost him. The heavy steel gears of destiny grind together in the dark. The cycle begins again.